Hi guys, JongLi here, and I'm back with another online commentary battle. This time it's a 1 versus 1 CWB battle, and I'm playing here as the Seleucids, and my opponent is Conan, also known as SR, playing as Pontus. I've played against SR a lot, against his Pontus especially. I think it's one of his, probably his favorite faction to play as. So yeah, I've always really found it quite difficult to beat him, because his build is really good. And I tend not to be great at facing chariot factions, especially with chariot factions myself. So here I'm using the Seleucids, and uniquely I haven't brought any chariots this time. Usually the standard Seleucid build is something like 5 Silvership Pikes, gold, 6 archers, some militia cav, and some scythe chariots. So I haven't brought any scythe chariots this game. I have brought the silver shields. But no scythe chariots, because I feel like the best scythe chariots can really do is trade 1 for 1 against these enemy scythe chariots, and they're actually quite ineffective against things like the horse archers, which can really just shoot them at will almost. And the Pontic light cav can even throw some javelins into them, and that sometimes makes them run amok as well. So I've been finding them not to be a great investment for me, just because I can't really micro them well enough to avoid all the missiles. And Pontus has probably one of the biggest missile arsenals in the game. They have, these chariot archers, which are amazing. Regular archers as well, and the Pontic light cav, incredible cav in their own right. He does take out one of my archers at the start, which is actually pretty bad. I really should have kept that safer. Unfortunate, but as you can probably tell, I've brought a very heavy pike army, so 5 silver shield pikes here, and I'm pretty much just trying to pressure him down, especially his bronze shields. The reason I brought so many pikes and not as many, I managed to catch some of his Pontic light cav here, which is really nice. The reason I brought all these silver shields is that I reckon pikes are actually super good against opponents that you are expecting to bring a ton of chariots, especially with such chariot heavy builds and no Cappadocians. If you can box up at the end of the game in a good position, then the chariots essentially become nullified and all that investment is wasted. I'm pretty sure I pointed this out before, but I just thought this game was a good illustration of that. So here I am, just trying to chase down these archers, because really, when you're thinking about the end game of a pike heavy build, when you're thinking about the end game, you really want to get rid of all the missiles you possibly can. So this is a really good catch for me. I managed to catch one archer here. I might get another one over here. Seems like I'm very close to it. Yep, looks like I get another one here, which is awesome. And I might get even this third archer unit. This one will probably come back, but I'm not going to chase it since there are so many side chariots back here. But getting the routes on 2 of them and probably cleaning them up is already really nice for me. The goal is to clean up as many archer units as I can. Ooh, that was a pretty close one. And probably missed micro here by me. He's going to get probably 1 or 2 of those militia cav, which is unfortunate. I need those militia cav units to really catch these archers out and really kill them off. But as you can see, he's thrown some chariots in here. I think these are the chariot archers. Yes, they are. And he's also got some scythe chariots running around here in the middle of my pikes, which is not very good for his scythe chariots. He might have been trying to rout some of these archers here, but diving into the pikes, even if they're in loose formation, is never a good idea with chariots. And he's going to lose a fair number of them. This one's going to rout. This one will probably rout if it sticks around any longer. I've still got a little bit of militia cav left over here, not too much though. I really have to work on preserving my militia cav a bit more. They're still okay numbers, but they're dropping really fast, and at this point I'm not really sure if they can even take down one of these archer units, even if I mass them up. So at this point I need to protect my archers now. I've done what I can with my cav. I could probably have done more, but they all died, so there's no helping it now. But with my archers, I'm looking to preserve them and really use them to focus down these enemy missile units. If I can get rid of a ton of these enemy missile units, and SR has to shoot my archers as well, then that's less arrows for the end game, and also less archers for the end game. So every archer I kill now will be very good towards later on in the game when I box up. Also, these Mushakav are worth keeping around, just in case you need to pick off an archer or a horse or a chariot archer or something. This chariot archer charged in, that's why it's down to 1 chariot. But SR still does have this 1 very healthy chariot archer unit and 4 of these very healthy archers. This one's not so healthy though, it's down to less than half. But I should have enough archers here to at least deal quite a bit of damage to these archers here. This Scythe Chariot I can't really do anything about. The good thing is it's running an Incantabrian Circle, which means it's going to tire itself out. It's already very tired. Hopefully it'll be exhausted soon and then its arrows won't do too much damage. Looks like SR's being smart here and actually stops putting them... Nope, they're still in Cantabrian Circle, never mind. So as long as they're in Cantabrian Circle, they're going to get tired. And eventually they're going to be quite ineffective. And there are only 27 guys... there are only 27 guys in these units. And I believe of the 27, only 18 of them only 18 of them actually shoot arrows. So this is more like half an archer unit worth of guys, but they do a lot of damage. Because the other 9 people are the cart drivers, and the other 2 are the archers, so that's why there aren't too many of them. This Ponting like have rats with quite a few guys, probably because of the massive infantry around here. SR's trying to poke around with this hard chariot back here, but he knows that if he charges in, there's a very high chance that my pikes turn around, or even if they just put their pikes down, this chariot might just go through them and onto the front of the pikes. So it is, and also he was probably trying to maybe scare us on these archers. So the scare effect of the chariots is an area of effect kind of thing, so that could have caused some of the archers to run, but fortunately none of them do, which is nice for me. But not like I don't have any cav left now, so these are pretty much just distractions. SR's pumping arrows into these, I believe, which is actually fine for me, because if he's pumping arrows into these cav units, then he's not pumping them into the infantry, which is nice. I am still concerned about these bronze shields though, but I reckon I have enough. I reckon I have enough silver shields to beat them. And if you look at these bronze shields, they're actually unupgraded. So SR evidently went for a very skirmish, missile-heavy build with chariots, and that just doesn't do so well when you have to fight the infantry. The big problem with Rome Total War infantry is that it's slow, and your opponents can therefore just run around the map and never have to fight them. The only time where you're forced to fight them and have to fight them is in the endgame, at least in terms of more professional play. In CWB, and when you're playing with the better players, that's why you have the box in the late game, because otherwise the infantry would be pretty much useless, apart from maybe screening off a little bit, screening off some archer units or something, and then basically they'd just be useless for the rest of the game if you didn't have to attack them at some point. So I think the rule most people go with nowadays is the person with the mobility advantage has to attack. In this case it will definitely be SR, because he's got these chariots here. I'm not very mobile because, well, all my Lycat is dead, and all I have left is this infantry, so SR will have to attack me in this late game. That's just how the rules work. If it didn't work that way, then infantry would be a terrible investment. I've played in games where players just refuse to do anything, they just refuse to attack. Here's an attempted general snipe here by SR, but doesn't really do anything. Does rout 1 archer unit, but it only had 3 people left anyway, so not too stressed about that. But at this point I should probably start boxing up. This thin line that was made to defend my thinly spread out archers probably isn't really necessary anymore since all my archers are dead. I do have a couple archers here, but I can box up and protect those still, so boxing up is probably a good idea for me. I'll triple speed it because it's a pretty boring process. Yeah, so thanks to CWB rules, and what people have found is that the more infantry heavy factions like Greece and Thrace, for example, and when you go for an infantry heavy build, it really helps if you have the rule of the person with higher mobility has to attack in, because then at least your infantry is useful and not a wasted investment. So this isn't quite a box, but because I've seen these bronze shields coming at me, I'm going to try and get 3 1v1s going at the front, and then I'll just have 2 pikes at the back to defend. That's the ideal anyway. These guys are a lot healthier in terms of numbers than my 3 dudes at the front, but 26, 27, 27 to 60, 52, and 24, so we're really outgunned. I think what I do decide to do is I put 4 onto these 3 pikes and then just have this 1 pike at the back screening. That can work too. These archers charge in, don't do too much. These chariots looked to charge in, but they're exhausted, and I guess SR didn't really fancy the morale doing too well. But yeah, I'll triple speed this a bit. Okay, so SR set up pretty nicely here. He has set it up so that I have to engage onto the front of his pikes instead of being able to get flanks and stuff, so I am going to have to put a 4th pike unit in here because this general unit isn't going to do too well because its numbers are a bit too low. My guys are gold though, so that's going to help a lot. I'm not really too concerned about these archers on the flank. I'm much more concerned about these chariots coming in. These guys are going to melt on the front of the pikes. They do get into the back of my pikes though, but I can turn this unit around and point it to the front, which will trap some of the chariots in. But even after, as you can see, even after those chariots went in, only 1 of my units routed, and that was one of the more depleted Seleucid pikes. They're coming in again for a charge, and these are only winded sized chariots, so these aren't like exhausted or anything. But they're not doing too well. They've only routed 1 Seleucid pike so far, and actually some of their guys are starting to rout now. So yeah, that was just an archer unit though. But some of the bronze shields have routed, and there are only 2 bronze shields left. One's only got 2 people. One's only got 33, and it's looking better and better for me by the minute. These archers all out of arrows, of course. I've made sure to drain them as best I could. I actually have some archers back here still with arrows, but they're exhausted, so even though they're shooting, they're not doing too much damage. But the main focus is here where the infantry is, and my infantry has pretty decisively won out against SRs. And that really just comes down to his side chariots being really ineffectual against the pikes. They're really just terrible units against pikes. There's just these 2 bronze shields left now, literally 2 people in this 1 unit here, and some archers, which will never beat the bronze shields. I mean silver shields, sorry. Especially when silver shields are gold. And I still have an archer unit left here, so I don't have much left, but SR doesn't either. So yeah, this is actually a pretty solid win for me, despite the narrow victory. I was pretty happy with this, and yeah, I think if SR brought even some Pontic light, even a bit more Pontic light cav, I think he did have quite a bit Pontic light cav, but if he swapped out, for example, 1 or 2 side chariots for Pontic light cav, it would have been a lot worse for me, because the Pontic light cav can actually do charges and are quite effective when charging into the rear or sides of things. Because they just have so much more health than the scythe chariots, and chariots in general, which just die when they're touched. Another alternative would be Cappadocians. Cappadocians generally overlooked by Pontic players in CWB, but they can be very strong, especially when you're playing against an infantry-heavy faction. So, for example, against Greece or against Thrace in maybe Cup of Nations or something. If I was playing Pontus, I definitely would just probably skip the side chariots, or maybe only bring 1 at most, and the rest would be maybe Cappadocians. Because when you're fighting against infantry with cav, you really want those horse units rather than the chariot units. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next time.